All right, shall we get rolling? This is going to be amazing, Sierra. I can't even believe it. I think Jackie has posted up on our page already, or she's going to post up a photo that was 9 years ago, that it came up as a memory on Randy Joe Hartman's page, that's is when we won and qualified for nationals. I don't even know what the heck they called it anymore. It's
I know.
it's not Alliance, it's not PGF. What the heck was it? Oh, ASA. That's what it was. ASA.
Was that what it was?
Oh
ASA?
my gosh! And you were this cute little thing. Do you remember that was the group we went and got our hair all cornrowed because we were going to the south and all that heat?
Oh yeah, I remember
It
that.
was crazy. I loved it. And I'll have to tell a funny story while we give a few people to get on. We all sat down and said, "Hey, we're going to the South. We're going to go to nationals." And do you remember the little Marissa Black? She raised her hand. She goes, "I've been to the South." And I said, "Where?" And she goes, "San Diego." And I was like, "Oh, girls, this is gonna be a blast." And Jackie wanted to tag some of the people in it, and I can only see Shell Bell, who is my daughter, who's now 5'10". She was the tiniest one in that photo, and then Rachel was right behind you, which is Randy Joe's daughter, who was a catcher at
hmm
Iowa State. And I am first going to introduce myself and get a little formal here. There's our other speaker, and I think we're good to go. So I am Sherry Nadine. I'm the owner and excited to be here, host of our space here. And we have, gosh, almost 1,000 student athletes. We're 961. We have 481 committed. It is literally a blessing every day to come out and serve student athletes. We are all over social media, even TikTok, Sierra. I'm on TikTok. I know you've probably seen and laugh a little bit, but it's all good. I just want to give a little, I'll tell my personal story about Sierra, but my co-host has been so amazing all these months. I think we started it back in September or something like that. And she is using the emojis. So for any new listeners on the call tonight, we have a little heart with pluses down there. We throw each other some love and claps and all kinds of other things. So feel free to do that. And I'm going to pass it off to Dr. Jackie Wins.
Thank you so much. Yes, I'm Jackie Wins. I'm from New Jersey. I do help Sherry out here with the spaces, but I'm highly involved in collegiate softball on the fan side, definitely within the Oklahoma community, but have branched out and I have a space on Tuesday nights that covers the overall roundup of each weekend of softball. So something to look out for, but highly involved in sports throughout my life. I'm a former D2 athlete in two sports. Unfortunately, one was not softball. But since then, I've just been really amazed at how softball has been growing and wanted to be a part of that for female sports in general.
Fantastic. Our next speaker also knew me and Randy Joe at this exact same time, Sierra. Coach Kelly was the high school head coach at Tesoro High School. And Randy Joe and I are these little petite women, and we didn't want to dive and show you ladies how to slide. So we called up Coach Kelly and said, "Can you come over to our practice and teach this group of 10-year-olds how to slide? Because Randy Joe and I don't want to get dirty." And so Kelly and I have been great, great friends ever since then. I absolutely adore her, and I'll let her introduce what she does.
Thank you, Sherry. Yes, so my name's Kelly Oberle. I run a company called Access Human Potential. I'm not doing much sliding practice anymore, but I was a former Division I athlete at Northwestern, and I've coached and played. And over the last couple of years, I've moved into more mental performance. So I work with athletes to kind of take their the training that they've done physically and really hone in on the mental aspects of it. So they're game ready and they see themselves as a whole person, not just the athletic piece of it.
Fabulous. And we have our two speakers from last week back because they added so much value, and it is in that space that we offered to make this another angle on the actual conditioning and preparation for being prepared to be a student athlete in college. And so just so all of you know, typically our audience is future college athletes. We usually tend to talk to prospective student athletes. So Dionne, will you give an introduction about yourself?
Yes, hi. Thank you for having me tonight. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Actually, it's funny, Sierra. I'm from San Diego, California. So that is the South, as south as you can get, unless you go past the border in San Ysidro. But I am a junior college softball graduate and also a Division II player. And I played a while back now, but I'm now currently a mom of two and then a strength and conditioning wellness coach here in Texas. And I'm actually in the West Texas area, so Lubbock area. And that has been my passion, getting these girls strong and ready to perform at an elite level before they actually get to college. So I'm very grateful to be on this call tonight and super excited to hear what we have to say.
And she's one of our valuable CSA advocates, especially here in Texas. So next one is Sergio.
Hey, Sherry, this is Sergio Gonzalez. Thanks for having me back. I am a speed and strength coach, and apparently my Siri just caught my accent and picked up and was trying to give me information about myself. Anyhow, so I am a speed and strength coach. Uh, I grew up running track, the 2 and the 400 meter, played baseball. I am a mechanical engineer, so I'd like to think I bring the biomechanics and the physics to the game, to the athletic body. I am certified through NASM, was certified about 6 years ago. And yeah, I hope to bring a little bit different twist to what we've taught in the past, and kind of how we can improve on everything that we do. This is my 8th year coaching. I mainly focus on softball and volleyball, front row in particular for volleyball, since we do a lot of vertical and a lot of the mechanics of that. So super happy to be here and super to hear what Sierra has to say.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for joining us again on another round of CSA, bringing information, what our audience wants and needs, and just trying to educate people. So I'm going to give a little introduction. My best girlfriend, Randy Joe, and I were co-coaches in 10 and under. And we had the pleasure of having Sierra Romero come to the tryouts with her little sister, who was toothless and had little ponytails on. And my husband told me to put her on the team because she was the best kid at the tryout. But Sierra was the big sister, so Sydney would come and practice and participate. But I fell in love with her family, her mom and dad, and her sister Sydney, and her brother and sister. And we've just remained as tight as you can be in this world. And I've been an absolute admirer of all, Sierra, that you've accomplished as a young lady, as a woman, as a spokesperson for softball. And it's just been an absolute life privilege to be in your life. So welcome, Sierra. And this story is your story. We're going to listen, and we want you to just share who you are and how it all works, what you're doing today, and tell us your story of how you persevered through injury.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Sherry. It's crazy to think that I'm 29 years old now, and we're still very close, and just with everything. I mean, I'm older now, but still to look back at those pictures and see me as a little girl is crazy, just to think where we were at and where I'm at now. But as far as like my story goes, I grew up in Southern California. I have my sister Sydney. She played at Oklahoma. My brother Mikey, he was drafted in the first round to the Boston Red Sox. And then my youngest sister, Sophia, she's the last one, and she's going to Boise State. She leaves pretty soon, I think, actually. She graduates in the next couple weeks from high school. So soon my parents will be empty nesters, and I know my mom is probably not looking forward to that, because if you know my mom, she's always the one wanting all of her kids around always and having us home for, the holidays and stuff. So I know she'll be sad to have everybody out, but yeah, we grew up very tight knit. I went to the University of Michigan. I had injuries at Michigan, but nothing to where it really kept me out of the game very long. I had torn my labrum and partially torn my rotator cuff in high school, but I didn't ever get it taken care of because I never actually got it checked out. And I got it checked out once I was in college because it started to act up again, but I had so much scar tissue built up in there that it ended up actually taking some of the pain away. But of course, it still acted up every once in a while. But again, nothing that I had to have like surgery on. I stayed relatively healthy throughout my 4 years playing at Michigan. And then I got to the pros and everything was going good. I felt like I was pretty much in the best shape ever. The only thing that maybe was not in my favor before the injury happened was I had coached that year at the University of Oregon. So I don't believe I probably put as much time into my preparation as I should have. I was so focused on coaching those athletes and making them the best that they could be that, I think it, took away naturally from my game, which, might have just hurt me a little bit on really being powerful and ready physically for season because my goal was to help them. Um, and so after that season, I decided to focus more on my playing career because I knew I still had a lot in me, but I also knew that if I was coaching, again, I would probably focus on giving my all to the athletes and not to myself. So I had to make that decision. And my pro team at the time re-signed me. And so I was, getting ready for season and it was in a scrimmage and I play hard 24/7. It's really hard for me to turn it off, especially when it's competition. Like I want to win. I don't care if it's a scrimmage, but we're in the middle of a scrimmage and ball was hit to left field. I was on second base and, I wanted to score and I thought I could score. So, um, coach was sending me, we both had that same vision of, yep, I can make it home. Went home and I had a path to slide and then the catcher did obstruct home. And so it was either obviously take her out or try to avoid her and get my hand in there to try to be safe. And so it was a very last minute movement. And I tried to get out of the way really quick to go around her. And my body was just in a really weird position when I tried to do that. And when I did that, I heard that pop they talk about when you tear your ACL, and I heard that pop, and I think I was in shock immediately after. I do remember I was like on the floor, I was crying, it hurt, but I wasn't really sure what to expect when I got up. And when I went to get up, some people can walk after they tear it, some people can put pressure on it. I really wasn't able to. I had to be carried off because I couldn't like limp on it like nothing. And so, I was hoping for the best and I was talking like, nothing really happened. Like, oh, this is gonna be easy. It's just a bone bruise or something. I was not thinking it was anything serious. I'm not somebody who is used to sitting out or not being able to play. So ended up getting, the MRI, all that stuff done. They did that ACL test and everything on me, and I ended up tearing my ACL, and it was pretty bad. It was completely torn, and then I tore almost completely tore my medial meniscus. They were able to save it, and then I partially tore my lateral meniscus. So, and then I also had a really bad bone bruise. I think from landing on it. I believe that's what it was from, and then it was kind of tough because you know with I was in the pro league. I was in the NPF, and with where it was at, like they don't cover you, so everything is on you, the athlete, to get it taken care of, which is kind of crazy. And I hope it changes, for female or for women's sports one day. But I will say that with Athletes Unlimited, you are covered. As long as you have your insurance, and then whatever your insurance doesn't cover from there, they have you. So I definitely wish I would have had that back then, just because that was all out of pocket on my end that I had to come and pay up front, which was not fun to pay. But I had my surgery and, I had all these good thoughts like, this is going to be good. I'm going to figure this out. And then my recovery post surgery it was brutal. I knew that everybody said that ACL was tough, but I thought that I would be tougher. And I knew that I was a tough person individually, and I didn't think anything would set me back or really phase me. And the ACL definitely got me. I mean, I ended up having to have total of 3 procedures. So the ACL procedure, I had what's called a manipulation done to my knee because I had a rare form of arthrofibrosis in my knee. And so they basically had to knock me out again. And then like while I was, asleep, they would like manipulate my leg to just break through all of that scar tissue. And then it's really weird because this is where you, the athlete, you need to listen to your body. And this is also where the parents definitely need to listen to their kids too. I was after my second injury, or my second procedure, I remember I was training, and I was supposed to, I was supposed to be getting ready to get back into playing, because it had been a while. It had been a couple years. There was like a year gap between all of these injuries. So I was actually away from softball for 3 years. And it was all because just when I'm about ready to, like, okay, let's get back into it, get ready to play, boom, something else popped up. Like, oh, it didn't heal correctly, or there's still something wrong with it. We need to fix it. So had that manipulation. And then I was sitting at home, I remember, on my couch, and I was in like a lot of pain. And I was like, this is not normal. Like, I should not be in this much pain sitting on my couch. Like, I'm not doing anything. And so, of course, I'm playing doctor. I'm Googling everything, which everyone tells you not to do. But I just had like a really strong gut feeling that something was wrong. And I kept telling my surgeon, and he was like, I think maybe, this injury has just really gotten to you mentally. And I was like, maybe, but I don't know. Like, I can't wait to get back out on the field. If anything, I'm ready to like push my limits and see what I can do, but I physically can't do some of these things. And it's frustrating. And so I told him, I was like, if this is really mental, then like it is what it is, but I need to get an MRI. And so I asked him to request an MRI. And if I needed proof. I needed full proof that nothing else was wrong with my knee. So that way I knew that I could just go back to playing, and that it was just the mental side kicking in, and I had to figure out a way to push past it. So we got the MRI, and I ended up having a cyclops lesion in my behind my kneecap, which again is extremely rare. So of course I'm like, at this point I think I'm like, why me? Why is all this stuff happening to me? I'm staying healthy. I'm going to PT. Like, I'm not missing any days. Like, I'm doing everything right. And so we had to have another procedure to take the cyclop lesion out, which was a pretty easy procedure, but again, just more time that I had to take to recover and get better. And when all of that happened, it was a lot. So as you can imagine, every single time, I think I'm getting somewhere, there's another setback. And, if you can think of any negativity that would come from that, like, I probably thought it. I definitely wasn't in a good headspace mentally. I was trying to keep myself up, but it was really hard. And it was something I didn't really know how to handle. And I think one of the biggest things was like, you go and you set your goals. Like, I think most people, when they get injured, a big thing is like, I'm going to set a goal, and then I'm going to try really hard to achieve it. And sometimes, like, it sucks when you're setting goals and then you're met with, nope, you can't do this. Like, you're physically not there yet. Or, nope, you can't do this. You have to have another surgery. And so, I'm a big like goal person and planner. Like, I like to have my schedule, my routine. And when I couldn't do the things that I wanted to do, like, it sucked. And it took a toll on me. And like, it was super easy for me to get into these bad moods. And, I just felt like emotionally I was all over the place. I would take it out on people and friends and family, and like, it was rough. And so I had to figure out a way to like mentally push past a lot of that. And one of the first things was like recognizing it. Like, I had to recognize what it was I was doing, and why I was doing it, because I wasn't going to play the poor me card. I didn't want to sit there and just say like, poor you, this happened to you, just, sit and be sad about it. I wanted to fix it. And I knew I wanted to get back in the game, and I didn't know how fast that would be. But at this point, it had already been a couple years, almost 3 years. And I'm like, how much worse can this get? Like, I know I can push through anything now. Every time I've gone through something, I've been met with something else, and I've overcome it eventually, even if it takes some time. And so for me, it was always knowing that I could overcome it. It sucked that it kept happening, but I think one of the biggest things that I had to be okay with was that feeling of being like scared. I'm not scared of much. And I definitely didn't know what was going to happen. I was terrified when I was able to run again. I was terrified when I first did a full circle on like the bike at PT. My physical therapist was telling me you can get your leg all the way around. And I'm like, no, I can't. I was, hiking my hip like crazy to get my leg around. And he'd be over there like physically pushing my hip down saying, okay, go, like make it a full circle. And I was like crying. I was, it hurt. I was in a lot of pain, but I definitely, I don't know how I got there. I feel like you kind of just get there mentally because you get tired of it. You're tired of the pain and you're tired of feeling that way. And so you push yourself to another level. And that's what I had to do at PT a lot. I was at physical therapy for sometimes 3 to 4 hours a day because my knee would lock up so bad and we would try really hard to get it loose and it would lock up by the time I drove home. So, I was frustrated because I was putting in the work. It was one of those things where you're like, I'm putting in the work and I'm not getting the results I'm supposed to get. So, it was one of those feelings of like helplessness. And I was always looking up like, what can I do here? What's the next best thing I can do? And so the biggest thing I did was like invest in my health and invest in my like mental health, but also the right trainer for me. For me, it wasn't about lifting crazy heavy. I knew I needed to be muscular and everything, but I wanted to be like, I just wanted to be like injury proof. And there's no way to be completely injury proof. It doesn't matter how in shape you are. It's just, I felt like I could have done a better job building those little muscles. And so, it got to a point where my PT was like, there's really nothing else I can do for you. Your knee is good. You're probably going to be in pain a lot. Like, you're just going to have to work through it. And I was like, I wasn't really okay with that answer. And I don't think anybody should be. And so I basically did my research and I looked up a ton of stuff on how to make like the little muscles around your knee stronger, how to help with like keeping them just like, what's the word? Not like keeping them kind of like stretched out and just not tight. Like, you guys should see me like when I was at AUX for my first season back. Any chance I got, you could ask any athlete, anytime they saw me resting, I was probably walking around with like this handheld roller thing, constantly rolling out my leg while I was sitting there because I didn't want it to be tight. I just knew I needed a different type of recovery. And did it suck that, some of the other athletes don't got to do that? Yeah, it sucks, but like this is my body and this is what I need. So I needed to hold myself accountable to whatever I was going to need to do to play at my best, or to even just be able to play and see the field in general. But creating that plan was huge because when you get hurt, I think that the worst thing you could do is just not really have a plan. Whether you create that plan before or after, depending on how you feel, and you can build it little by little. I still think that setting goals is important, even though like sometimes it, like I said, it sucked looking at it when I didn't reach that goal. It still gave me something to push for every single day. Whether it was, hey, we're going to try to bend my knee today to 90 degrees, to 60 degrees, whatever it might be. Like you get little victories made it a lot easier. And even when you didn't hit them every single time, it did help make you a little more determined to get there the next time. So I definitely think that that's big, but creating a plan is what really helped me, and setting myself up with the right trainer. Again, I made sure that during my injury, I physically was taking care of myself when it came to what I was putting into my body, because during that time, when you're injured, depending, with what your injury is too, it might be hard to stay in shape. And one way to try to help you with doing that is making sure you're eating, healthy, relatively healthy. Not saying you can't still have your favorite cheat meal. I still have my favorite cheat meal. I'll never give that up. I don't care how old I get or how into diet I get. I still am 29 and I still love my hot Cheetos, and I don't think that those are ever going away. But I definitely just think that that's something that, you want to like treat yourself to. But I do think that that played a huge part of it, because when I came back and I was able to move more, it wasn't like I had to lose a bunch of weight. It was more, I just needed to build muscle because the atrophy in my leg was really bad. I had really no muscle in my left leg, and I had to figure out how to fix that. But I would definitely say what the most like interesting thing is it has definitely been my life post injury, because still to this day, like, I don't want you guys to think like, oh, my career's over after injury, whatever. I just played my first year pro back this past season, killed it in the beginning of season. Second half of season was like not so great, but still I was I was really pumped. I was like, I didn't know what to expect. There were times that I still stepped on the field and I was a little bit scared, but I didn't let that fear, stop me from playing or stop me from going hard. I definitely think it was just something I recognized because it's natural. I made sure that during my preparation and my training, I was always putting my body into really tough positions. So that way, if my body was ever put in those positions in a game, I felt fine. And I knew there was no reason for me to, freak out. But I still to this day, like you guys might, if you follow me on Instagram or anything, like you might be like, oh, she's doing all these workouts. Her knee must be great. I mean, it's not like it's never going to be the same. It's just my knee, like it's just different. Your knee's different. I can't speak on that for other injuries, but like when it comes to like your knee and the ACL, like it always just feels a little bit different. Whether it's a little bit tighter because, you have a new ACL in there. I don't really know what it is, but it just feels different than your non-injury leg. But I'm constantly, testing that leg just as much as I test my right leg to make sure that it can withstand just as much as my right can. And so I think that's definitely really important because you want to make sure power wise it's as close to equal as possible. Even though you might have one that's more dominant, you want them to be very close to each other. But working on that agility work was huge for me. And just making sure that my preparation going into season was top tier because the worst thing I could have done was nothing and just been scared of moving and scared of doing all those things, because then at that point it's going to be really hard to play your sport if you're playing scared. And I know that I said there was still moments where I was scared during the game, but that it wasn't like a scared of to the point where like it overcame me and it was like I can't play. It was just like, if I got on second base, I would have like a little flashback of when I was on second base the day I got injured and I had to run home. And I remember getting in my head a little bit like, oh man, if this ball's hit and I gotta go home, I remember telling myself, just go. And there were plenty of times I had to go second to home. And the second that that ball was hit in my head, in my mental approach, there was just no hesitation. I was telling myself, go, instead of thinking like about, even if I was on the base and I was just thinking about what happened last time I was on second base when I had hurt my knee running into home. As soon as that ball was hit, it wasn't those thoughts. There weren't those thoughts creeping in my head. All I was thinking was the word go. And all I cared about was trying to be safe. And trying to keep it simple like that really helped because those thoughts are going to naturally creep in, but it's how you kind of like get them out. The thoughts, they come, they go, but how can you kind of keep them in line and push them out when they need to be pushed out, and just remember, all the preparation, because I definitely think the preparation is a huge part. If you prepare the right way and you do the things you need to do, it makes your job a lot easier. And I think that's the case for a lot of softball players. If you hit, you do your defensive work, you do all those things, it's super easy to go into the weekend feeling really good. But if you do none of those during the week, you're probably not going to feel very good going into your games for the weekend. Or, if you wonder why you hit poorly, your defense was bad, like that's why, because you didn't train. And it's like that for workouts too. If you don't feel athletic on the field, why is that? Probably because you're not working out. And so I would definitely say that like those highs and lows, like they're going to come, they're natural. And if anybody says that they just like coasted through an injury, like I just wouldn't believe them. Maybe if it wasn't a serious one, maybe if it was no surgery required, like, yeah, probably not. But anything to where like, you're having to go to PT, like it's hard for everyone. And, some people it's easy to just be like, oh no, I'm good. And I would definitely say that that's how I was in the beginning. Like when I was struggling, I would just play it off like I was good. And I think one of the best things I did was like on the bad days when they would happen is like I would cry. And I think like I'm not a crier. I don't cry. And um I'm not much of like an emotional person, I feel like, when it comes to that stuff. But, it hurt. I was upset, but at the same time I was determined. And sometimes when you're super determined and passionate about something, like sometimes those emotions of wanting to be upset and cry come out because you care so much. And it's not like a sign of weakness or like that you're not good enough or anything. It's just like, I just care a lot. And I think that it's funny because for me, I had to see, I'll never forget, I was in PT and I didn't want to cry. And it was to the point where like, I would tell my PT, like, I want, like, okay, when we go to do this, I need a towel. And he's like, why? I was like, because I don't want anyone to see me cry. And he was like, Sierra, like everyone knows what injury you have. We see people crying in here all the time for things that aren't even as serious as your injury. And I'm like, well, I don't care. And one of the days I come in and I'm getting ready to get going, and there's a big old football player, like 2 tables down, and he is bawling his eyes out. And he's had the same injury as me. And I was like, oh, dang. Like I knew how he felt in that moment, but like it also kind of made me feel like it was almost like a safe space to just kind of let it out and not feel embarrassed by it. Because I think that I felt like I was embarrassed to like let that out. Like I felt like I would look weaker or less than, which wasn't the case, but it's just what I was thinking mentally. But I feel like got past that once all of those things happened and those conversations happened. But the big thing for me was recognizing it and having to practice it every single day. Um, Anytime a negative thought came, I would try to follow it up with positive thoughts, multiple ones, um, every single time. Because, I mean, you're going to be your biggest critic, and the worst thing you can do is talk negativity into your brain, and just constantly telling yourself you can't do something, you won't ever be able to do something. Like that gets to you. Um, and
Sierra, I was going to insert real quick and just remind the audience if they want to throw some questions up, they can throw it up to either myself or Jackie in our DMs or up on the space. But I didn't want to interrupt you. I just
oh yeah,
wanted to
perfect.
remind them to keep coming and just keep telling your story and maybe switch it a little bit here. And what advice do you have to some of the students that are on the line? I know one of them here was one of them that suggested this, the space of am I going to lose out in recruiting? Am I going to lose out in my game? Lots of worry about those types of things. What kind of advice would you have for her there?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing is, of course, an injury is going to be a setback no matter what, because it takes time to heal. But I think having that determination and that mindset of I'm going to get after it, that's really the best thing that you can do. And let your body heal. Like take care of yourself, let it heal. But just do everything in your power to give your body the rest it needs, but also make whatever the injury is stronger, right? Make yourself stronger. Like, but time is sometimes the best thing. So don't rush it. Don't feel like you need to just get back out on the field, because the last thing you want is for it to happen again. I definitely took the time that I needed. I knew for a fact I was like with ACL, they always recommend at least like 8 to 9 months. And I was like, I'm taking the full year. And I made that very clear to my coaches. I was like, I want the full year because I want to make sure that this thing is strong and I'm good to go. Because, like, again, like I said, the last thing you want is to have it reoccur and happen again, all because maybe you weren't as prepared as you could have been had you given yourself maybe a couple more months. Because from the research I've done, the people I've spoken to, they all say, like, if you can wait the full 12 months, like, why not? That if it's not going to hurt you, like just go the extra couple months and work on yourself and make sure you're fully ready to return to sport. So I definitely think that that's probably one of the best pieces of advice, and something I made very clear to my pro coaches. Like, I'm taking the full year and I'm not returning, a month before that year is up, which ended up turning into 3 years, but I didn't know that was going to
Yeah.
happen.
And of course, and imagine how bad it would have been if you hadn't have taken that time off. It would have been even worse. So I think, what this young lady that I know is on the call here, I'm her advocate. So obviously myself and her club and her coaches are going to do everything, I mean, she's very talented. She's not going to have any issues. I promise her that, just to get well. And the timing is perfect because she's not recruited yet,
Mm-hmm.
she's not in that place where she's having to make a commitment just yet. So, I wanted to make sure that she feels, comfortable and safe. And the way you shared this self-talk is incredible. And I want to throw the mic over to Kelly and just see if she has any other mental tips that maybe you didn't cover yet that would help these young ladies and
Right.
student athletes.
Yeah, thank you, Sherry and Sierra. Thank you for sharing your story. And I think you brought up some really, really key mental pieces that maybe now in hindsight you might recognize. But I think positive self-talk is a huge one, and processing your feelings when you're going through an injury is really important. And that's where having advocates can help, because you can have those conversations. Ideally, coaches have those conversations with you, parents, teammates, kind of normalizing. I think, Sierra, what you had saw was normalizing the fear and the emotion around injuries, and being able to do that is a key part of healing, actually, both mentally and physically. Another piece of it is really looking at kind of, I think the big thing is controlling what you can control. And so, again, having people that then can help you through that process is critical. But there's only so much you can control with an injury. So you can control what you put into your body. You can control staying on process. Goal setting is great, because that's something that you can control the process of completing your goals. So those are some of the key ones. And then the anxiety, I think you mentioned, of coming back. I think anyone that's been through an injury, I had actually fractured my cheekbone playing, and that anxiety of those first couple of things. And I think you mentioned it, and it's something, our self-talk and our ability to stay in the present when we're playing helps us, whether you were coming back from an injury or just, being the best athlete we can be. But I think as you're recovering from the injury, if you can do that, also is that mental prep of positive self-talk, using mindfulness to stay in the present. Those are all great things. So Sherry, I don't know how much, I don't want to take too much
That's
time.
lovely. And I would like
Um,
to ask, I tried to send Sergio a request to be a speaker. I don't know if he's gotten it, but I wanted to ask Dionne if there was something else that she saw in here that Sierra was doing, or I know you care about nutrition, and maybe you could give a couple tips there, Dionne.
Absolutely. Sierra, your story is amazing. Kelly, I didn't know that you got injured either, but I feel like this is something that, is very, very tangible. Like they can reach to your story right now and really understand you even more. And yes, I follow you, and so I didn't know you were completely injured that long. But I feel like this is something that's great. You touched on, strengthening both sides of your body and understanding the nutrition aspect and the health of your total wellness. And I feel like that's something that is missed, most commonly missed, because depending on the side of the body, generally one side just gets overworked and the other side actually will be the next one injured because of the overcompensation. And I feel like when you had reached to your inner self and you were able to be, you know, um, really vulnerable with your emotions at the moment and understand, like, okay, this is what I need to do with my whole entire self and my body, and understanding my emotions and speaking to your, to your true self and understanding like what you needed. That's when your body internally will heal, and it helps you externally perform a whole lot better, even when you're strengthening those small muscles and identifying, what you're able to do at the moment. And I feel like taking those small steps really helped you gain stride in the long run.
They
Excellent.
definitely
Sarah,
did.
I was going to say, Sarah, go keep telling us more about your story and any responses to our speakers.
No, I mean, they definitely did. And that's why, like, one of my biggest pieces of advice for especially like the travel ball players is don't wait until you're hurt to take care of your body. I know that, again, I know some injuries are unpreventable. Like you don't know when it could happen. It could still happen even if you're in the best shape of your life. So I'm not sitting here saying that if you do all these things, you're for sure not going to get hurt. So I don't want you guys to think I'm saying that. I'm just saying take care of those little muscles, whether it's your arms, your knees, any little thing. And at the end of the day, it's good to work out also for your mental health. Getting outside and working out, or just putting your body to work for even 30 minutes, it ends up working in a lot of different areas, mentally, physically, everything. So it's really just a plus at the end of the day. But definitely
Awesome.
don't
And I
wait until
see, I don't know if you see him, but one of our speakers has their hand up. Sergio's got his hand up, and I wanted to see if he could add in there too, and not to interrupt, but to see if he can add some value there.
Yes, thank you, Sherry. I guess to begin with, Sarah, that was a great story. So thank you for sharing. My daughter blew out her ACL, MCL, and meniscus her junior year in high school. So she was at the top of the recruitment stage. She was super excited. She was getting the looks. And then that happened. A couple of things that I really liked that you touched on, as a matter of fact, Dionne kind of touched on that as well, is if I can stress keeping your body as balanced as possible. But here's the other thing that a lot of people don't understand is that a lot of insurances will only cover the physical therapy for your injured side, whether it's a shoulder or a knee or your ankle. So it's up to you, uh, either the athlete or if the athlete is young, up to the parent to understand what's going on with that side that is being treated, so they can go home and do the same thing on the other side. That was probably the biggest shock to me is whenever the doctor that I actually became pretty good friends because he liked trail biking. We trail bike together after this, and I would ask him, why does the other side tear, break, whatever the case may be? And he said because the insurance only covers one side. So I think it's important to understand that that's something that we have to take upon ourselves to be proactive in that. Speaking of proactive, so once that injury happened with her, that's actually what propelled me to really change the way that I coach, to change the way that I teach these kids to train, right? I was brought, the more you deadlift, you squat, you bench press, so you just, weak things break, right? Well, here it is. Usually what breaks is the small muscle groups or ligaments, tendons, small bones. So now I could even say that I would highly recommend for everyone to have a program to be proactive to to teach your body how to handle a deceleration. Most injuries happen whenever you stop and change directions, right? So deceleration, change of directions. By training your body that way, you just automatically make that ligament tendon stronger. A lot of these exercises that are not popular on Instagram, social media, because well, they're kind of boring. One of my good friends, she coaches a lot of NFL and NBA guys, and it's hilarious. Whenever you stop by her place, you would think they're all deadlifting 5,000 pounds, right? No, they're all doing single leg, just movements to really, really control. So the takeaway from that is to really be proactive on your recovery, even on the side that's not injured. And then two, be proactive on your workouts that you do. Take the time to warm up properly before you lift. At the end of your max workouts, make sure that you have the range of motion that you're going to need to play or to slide or to swing or to whatever the case may be, depends on your sport. So I think that's very important. And I know um, Dion and I, excuse me, are very passionate about the way we fuel our body. Foods that causes inflammation. I know we touched on it last week, but this is 100% for injuries, guys. The food that you eat, and Sierra touched on it, it's going to speed up or slow down your recovery. So take that in consideration.
Fantastic. I love the follow up. And I just want to remind the audience before we let Sierra continue, is she does have a deadline tonight because she is East Coast, so it's getting very late for her. So I would love it if any of the listening audience has any questions, especially towards, getting through what's coming in their future here. And, at some point you're going to have an injury at some place in your life. So Sierra, I'd love to hear more.
Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. And just to make sure I cover this before I have to go, one of the things that I have launching, which you guys are now the first people to know because I haven't shared it with anybody. I actually have an app coming out and it's going to be launching tomorrow. And it's what I've been really busy on, which is why I also have the deadline because I have to go make sure I finish and everything is done with it. And it's going to have 4 programs in one. It'll have the hitting side, the defensive side, the strength and conditioning coach, which is my coach that I work with currently, and then also a podcast side about the mental approach. And athletes from all over can have access to all of it. I just feel like over the past, I don't know how many, I don't even want to count how many years I've been out of college, but however long I've been out of college, I've done camps and clinics all over the place. And one of the biggest things that I always get frustrated with is, I work with kids and I'm showing them all these movements and I'm like, man, I wish I had more time. I wish I could just stay here and work with them, but it's never like that. I'm there for 2 days and then I'm out. And so I always thought like, I wish I could come up with something. And so I ended up partnering with my trainer, and that's where this inspiration came, just because then I can reach everyone. And you can get video instruction on how to do everything. It's me doing all of the movements. So if you have questions, you can actually see it. So that way you're not doing the movement completely wrong, because I wouldn't want that either. But what's funny is for like the workouts, for example, like when you look at the workouts, a lot of it, like there's some of the workouts, like, yeah, sure, we didn't put any weight on some of the stuff, but some of the stuff, like I don't even do with heavy weight. It's how effectively and efficiently can I move whatever weight is on me, even if it's not a lot, because when I'm playing, it's just my body weight, but I'll add just a little bit more and I'll still practice like single leg pogos and sticking the landing, or if I'm not sticking it, letting my body readjust without giving up on it, but letting my knee be put in those weird situations, because that's going to happen. It's inevitable. So a lot of the stuff on there is really good for that. And again, there's just going to be more stuff we add as the app continues to
Well,
grow.
this is
But
amazing, and I feel honored that you announced it on our show. I know you were talking about a big announcement coming tomorrow, so thank you so much for that privilege. And I would love it. I don't know if you know how to add on to the space here and add your information of how to get in touch with you and how to get the app. And the same for Dionne and Kelly and Sergio. If you guys can remind the audience what your websites are and how to get in touch with you, we love to support each other. I know Sergio and Dionne I've offered before, but you're welcome to send me your logos and contact information, and I'll put you on my page as a partner. And Sarah, obviously, I'd love to put anything you need on our page. We have a partner page on Collegiate Sports Advocate, and we
yeah,
do put these all up here. We put all of our recorded live Twitters, and you've seen recently we had Glenn Moore and Karen Weekly and Lonnie Alameda, and we're just always looking for the next best set of information to serve you guys. So, Sarah, how do we find you?
yeah. I mean, I would say the biggest platform I'm like active on the most is Instagram, and my Instagram is Sierra Joy 32, the same as my Twitter account. And then my website will be called the32approach.com. And again, that'll be launched tomorrow. And you'll see we're doing a really cool giveaway, which will go live tomorrow as well. So you'll definitely not want to miss out on that, because the giveaway is going to be a free trip to Florida to train with me.
What can I apply to?
You can apply. We'll
Even
see.
is there an
That's
age
awesome.
limit to this?
I know. Dionne and Sherry trip to Florida.
Oh yeah, it'll be fun.
Kelly.
We're even going out to dinner in downtown St. Pete.
Oh,
I'm
that
in.
is fantastic. Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
in.
We'll just come help. We're all fun people. And if you all don't know, Sarah and Aloe and Sydney came to Texas a while back. I don't remember long ago that was, because both the girls were still at Oklahoma, and they did a hitting session and stayed at my house, and I felt like Aunt Sherry, but I'm just so grateful for
That was
our
awesome.
relationship and time together. Yeah, I never had spent that much time with Sarah. It was just wonderful. And
Well,
just
it was cool too because
again,
I was older. You know what I mean? Like it was just different
yeah.
conversation, different everything. So it was really cool.
Yeah, it was so amazing. And just, I felt privileged that you felt comfortable to, come to Texas and spend the weekend with Sherry. I
Yeah,
can be fun.
it was fun. You're a great host.
It was, yeah, it was a great time. And I did get to talk to Aloe and over at North Carolina, and I see Sid out there. And I just am just amazed and most of the people know that the Knighton sisters were also in our group of teams that Coach Randy, Joe, and I had. And Sarah played with some of the greats, and Coach Hutch, I give her a lot of kudos for helping me start my company, because she gave me a lot of free advice about serving the college coaches and what they needed. So that's what we've been doing all these years. I can't believe it's been 9 years. So,
You guys have
and
been
I think it
killing
was
it.
I think it's 2004 that we coached you. I think it was either 3 or 4. I can't remember. You girls are so dang old. But
No.
any last questions from our audience while we close it out? And Sarah, I'm so thrilled to see this launch tomorrow. And if you wouldn't mind, like everybody, retweet the space when it's done and add Sierra's information so that we hit everybody's audience. And of course, I'll put it out through our network and, share your announcement. We're big Twitter people because that's where, of course, all the recruiting is happening on Twitter. And I'll share it on Instagram and TikTok too. Don't forget about my favorite place.
Absolutely. I thought it was about time that the softball world has something that's just for them. So this
It
is for
it
softball
is.
players only. And it's softball specific, and it's something that, I know that a lot of people when I was in travel ball could have benefited from, who didn't have the resources and didn't have access to people and trainers and drills or anything. They didn't know really what to do. Because, the big thing in that app is you guys know me, Sherry, you know me especially, and you're going to laugh at probably one of the videos that I post out there, because you're going to be like, this is literally Sierra to a T, where I basically tell you whether or not the app's for you. I'm very brutally honest. And I think like the big thing is just making sure that we have the right people in the app. We want hard workers. We want people that want to make it to an elite level, whatever level that is. There's a college for everyone. And we just want to help people get there at the end of the day. And this is my way of trying to give back to the sport, because I've learned so much and I've done so much over my career that I'm like, I just feel like I have a ton of information, and I see so many drills and workouts and things on Instagram that people are telling you to do to be able to hit. And I'm like, nobody does that. Like, that's not a
It,
drill.
it hurts
That's just
my
a lot of
eyeballs.
fluff.
I just go, no, take that down, please
Right. I'm like, this is
stop. You're
just a lot of
killing me.
fluff. Like, I'm just
Yeah.
going to give you the drills that I know for a fact work, and the drills that I've done throughout my career. And if you do them, you stay consistent with them, they're going to work for you.
That's fantastic. Well, I am excited to be part of your launch here tonight and with our audience. And we share this, you're going to get thousands of views and listeners by the time it's done. Everybody can't always get on because, of course, you're 10 o'clock and the Californians are 7 o'clock. So somewhere in between, we get this all done. But to my other speakers on our panel tonight, I know normally we pass the mic a lot, but it was just such a special time to get Sierra on here and share with everybody what she's up to and just share what an amazing story. And I always leave the closing out to Dr. Jackie. So, Jackie, bring it down.
All right. Well, first off, thank you so much, Sarah, and the rest of the panel. I do think, as those who are in the space and who have been with us before know that I'm a huge advocate for anybody who has been through the injury path and also challenges with mental health, because I think we don't talk about it enough. We harp on recruiting, we talk about how to get there, and then we don't do much once they're there and afterwards. So I think that this really provided a lot of those young athletes in the room and those who will be listening afterwards, that content that needs to be heard. And it is special when it's heard, right, from a player that has, experienced that, and is well known, because we often hide that part, right? And we don't want to talk about our injuries as athletes, but it's important that we do so because we know that others are struggling with that. So first off, I want to say thank you so, so much. This really was valuable. And I definitely will listen back.
So, thank you to our panels, Sierra. Big air hugs over here. And I'm sure I'll see you. I'll be at the College World Series. You know that. And hopefully see you out there soon and see your
I'll be
mom
at
and
the World
dad.
Series. I'll see you there.
Okay, let's do it. We'll have dinner. Let's go.
Let's do it.
All right, everybody. Thank you, loyal fans. Retweet. Let's go. We'll see you. Oh, and next week, guess what we're talking about? Next week, we're going to talk about the coach changes, because everybody's shocked every year. Coaches change, just like players change. So we're going to talk about it next week and discuss some of the changes. And we try to keep track of the commitments. We try to keep track of the changes. And we just want to inform people that it's just not as simple of a process as they think it is. And CSA is here to help you all the way through graduation of college. So that's why we dig into all of these resources for you. So everybody have a safe night, and we'll see you next Monday. Thank you again, panel. Have a good night.